Good afternoon, everyone. So, the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization has declared today, the 4th of March, as World Engineering Day. The aim of the day is essentially to highlight the importance of engineers and engineering when it comes to sustainable development and to outline our achievements as engineers. So, this really got me thinking about the role of an engineer in current times. And I did what any millennial would do. I turned to Google. So upon my Google search, I found the following definition, not from Wikipedia, but rather the Oxford Dictionary. And it says an engineer is a person whose job involves designing and building engines, machines, roads, and bridges. So in theory, that seems fairly straightforward. I then went on to look at the requirements of an engineer according to EXA, which are shown on screen at the moment. And I'm sure we're all quite familiar with the 11 EXA outcomes by now. So from looking at the outcomes, it seems that being an engineer means much more than simply designing and building roads and bridges. I then looked at some of our iconic projects at Night Be Sold, and this includes Nicotel Dam, which is the largest water storage dam in Namibia with a full supply volume of approximately 853 megameters cube, and over 1 million meters cube of concrete was used in the construction of the dam. So it's a truly iconic project completed by our dams and hydro team at KP, and a great example of true engineering excellence stemming from the vision of an engineer. But there's also several other benefits that come with the construction of the dam, and that includes the employment opportunities created for the local labor surrounding from the surrounding towns and villages, and also water from the dam is used for agricultural purposes, which is a major economic driver in the area. Another major project at Night Be Sold is our Into Wild Coast project, which our infrastructure team is busy with. And this forms part of the future major link between East London and Port Edward. So it's a greenfield project, as you can see from the picture on screen. And we have several structures that have been designed along the route. And these are set between what will be two of the most iconic bridges in South Africa. So another great example of engineering excellence. But again, if we consider the additional benefits of the project, the Wild Coast area is one of the least developed areas in the country, and the project will provide an opportunity for local development in the short and long term. And as they say, roads are the arteries through which the economy pulses. So the point that I'm trying to make is that as an engineer, our role is much more than just technical excellence. At the end of the day, we serve society, and the forward linkages which are created through the products of our construction are available many years after practical completion. So World Engineering Day places emphasis on this, and the UN recognizes that engineers and engineering are critical for achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So this slide just shows the four ways in which we have an impact on sustainable development. And points A and C really relate to the provision of basic infrastructure, as well as how that relates to sustainable economic development. If I can just go to the next slide quickly. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals, which we hope to achieve by 2030. And we can easily see that many of these goals are directly impacted by our contribution and work as engineers, with several others indirectly influenced by our work. So, for example, if we look at goal number 6, we really are assisting in providing basic human rights as well as restoring human dignity through the delivery of infrastructure related to clean water and sanitation. In the same way, when you look at the provision of housing, for example, and energy, this directly affects the quality of life of an individual. Just going back to my previous slide. So the second role that we have towards achieving the sustainable development goals is the role that we have towards mitigating the effects of climate change. And this can be done by adapting our designs according to the changing weather and climate conditions. And the last point relates to the role that we have in developing inclusive and equitable solutions through innovation and the use of technology to ultimately assist society. And I think our main speakers today will focus more on this point. So the role of an engineer, more so in a developing country such as South Africa, is unique and important. And according to UNESCO, whilst developed countries have between 20 to 50 scientists and engineers per 10,000 people, developing countries have approximately 5 for the same amount of people. In South Africa, we also know that we have one of the highest inequality rates in the world, with a Gini coefficient of 0.65. And whilst you and I are afforded the luxury of attending this webinar from our home offices, there are still people in this country who unfortunately do not have access to potable water. So these infrastructure issues are further exacerbated by increasing rates of urbanization, a lack of maintenance of existing infrastructure, and the demands of society on engineering ever increasing. So to respond to these demands, the way in which we approach problems needs to change. We need to adopt the profile of the modern day engineer. So what does the profile of the modern engineer look like? According to the World Economic Forum, the following skills are identified as those that will be high in demand for the future of work in South Africa. So if you go through the list of 15 skills, we can see that a lot of them actually look similar to our 11 EXA outcomes. And this highlights the fact that engineers have an important role to play in the future of our country. Um, so just looking at the profile of the modern engineer, resolving the development issues that we face as South Africans will require tremendous innovation by engineers working alongside other professionals. It requires us as engineers to synthesize solutions and not simply just analyze problems. In addition to our existing skill set, to me, the modern engineer firstly needs to realize that we require a collaborative approach to problem solving. And this often includes both technical and non-technical disciplines working on projects side by side. The modern engineer also has high EQ so that we can better understand the needs of society and in turn are able to create designs which are better suited to the end user. And finally, the modern engineer is innovative and able to leverage the opportunities that arise from the use of technology. And this is really one of the main drivers behind the creation of our CESA Technology and Engineering Innovation Forum, as well as today's webinar. So in closing, the next few decades will not just be business as usual for engineers, and we will need to deliver infrastructure in a manner that includes the skills mentioned so that we are able to achieve our sustainable development objectives as a country. To me, this is the role of the modern engineer. Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to add a final point to say to my fellow engineers, we acknowledge you today, we celebrate you, and we look forward to your future contribution towards engineering a better world on this World Engineering Day. Okay, thank you.